This is your News Source Evening Bulletin for today, Monday, the 24th day of September in the year 2018. Here's what we're tracking tonight. 2 persons have been charged in Canada in connection with a major drug bust that is linked to Guyana. The Royal Canadian Mounted Police and the Canada Border Services Agency have announced that during Joint Forces operation on the 17th of September, 81 kilos of cocaine was found and seized at the port of Valleyfield in Canada, aboard a cargo vessel that arrived from Guyana with bauxite. The vessel Jacqueline C is suspected to have left Guyana from Linden. According to the Canadian authorities, the drug was concealed in the hold of the vessel. It was reportedly being monitored, and after its arrival at the port, the crew members were searched. Then a thorough search of the ship was conducted. The cocaine was found stashed in bags. 4 persons were initially arrested, 2 of whom were charged with conspiracy to import cocaine for the purpose of trafficking. The 2 who have been charged have been identified as 36-year-old Roldan Di Gorio Tito and 48-year-old Nazir Ahmad Hussein. Hussein is believed to be a Guyanese national. The investigation is ongoing, and the Canadian authorities believe that the seized drugs was heading for the Toronto and Vancouver markets in Canada. Local authorities are investigating the shipment from this end. More news in a moment.
The Ministry of Business, together with our private sector partners, present Guyty 2018, Guyana's first trade and investment exhibition, the largest and most exciting business-to-business event in Guyana from the 19th to the 22nd of September at the Guyana Marriott Hotel. Our Guyanese companies will engage regional and international buyers to access new global markets. Come and interact with our local companies on our public day, Saturday, the 22nd of September. Don't miss this opportunity.
Welcome back. Let's tell you now that the hotel owner who was charged back in August for manslaughter in connection with the shooting death of his neighbor has now been remanded to jail, following a decision by the Director of Public Prosecutions to upgrade that charge to murder. Hotel owner Erwin Bacchus was at the Georgian Magistrates Court this morning, where he found out that the murder charge was now being instituted against him after the withdrawal of the manslaughter charge. The man appeared confused by the decision. He's accused of shooting his neighbor Jason de Florimont dead in the compound of his hotel. The man was reportedly chasing after a handyman of the hotel at the time during an argument. Bacchus had claimed that he acted in self-defense. After he was initially charged for manslaughter, he was granted bail in the sum of $1.5 million. That bail has now been revoked as murder charges do not allow for bail to be granted. The courtroom was packed this morning as the decision was announced, and the hotel owner was handcuffed and placed in the lockups. Family members of the dead young man appeared pleased by the decision. Since the incident, they had maintained that de Florimont was no threat to the accused at the time of the incident. They had also told reporters that a 30-year-old man had repeatedly been threatened by the hotel owner. A post-mortem examination found that the young man was shot a number of times to the back. He was reportedly involved in a confrontation with his girlfriend when the hotel's handyman became involved. The two got into an argument, and de Florimont chased the handyman into the hotel's compound. It was there that he was shot multiple times and collapsed as he tried to run back home. The accused will make his next court appearance in a few weeks. In the world of agriculture, close to a year since the life of the last board of directors expired, the government today announced a new board of directors for the problem-plagued Guyana Sugar Corporation. Minister of State Joe Harmon made the announcement today at his post-cabinet press briefing.
Cabinet approved the appointment of the board of directors of the Guyana Sugar Corporation as submitted by the Honorable Minister of Agriculture. The members appointed were as follows: Mr. John Dow, Chairman, Mr. John S.L. Browman, Mr. Richard N. Comerbach, Mr. Paul Chung, Mr. Fitz McLean, Mr. Vishnu Pandey, Mr. Ramesh Prasad, Mr. Naurang Prasad, Mr. Roy Hanneman, Mr. Claude Eric Housty, and those are members, along with Dr. Harold Davis, the acting CEO, as an ex officio member.
The life of the board will be for the next 2 years, expiring at the end of August in 2020. The members of the new GUYSUCO board were all recommended by the Agriculture Minister. Just last week, the government found itself coming under more criticism for the long delay in naming a board for the sugar company. The Guyana Agricultural and General Workers Union last week questioned the government's seriousness in wanting to tackle the many problems facing GUYSUCO. The Minister of State had earlier named a board, but that board was reportedly not approved by the cabinet. And the Agriculture Minister later submitted his own list of nominees for that GUYSUCO board. Still in the courts, 3 members of a North Rhineville family found themselves appearing before Principal Magistrate Judy Latchman today, facing marijuana possession charges. The father, mother, and daughter were marched into the courtroom this afternoon and all pleaded not guilty to being in possession of over 90 pounds of marijuana at their North Rhineville home, in addition to other charges. The 64-year-old Keith Baker, his wife, 56-year-old Cheryl Baker, and their daughter, 25-year-old Loretta Chisholm, were all remanded to jail after the charges were read to them. The 3 were first charged for all being in possession of the more than 90 pounds of marijuana. Then separate charges were read to the mother and daughter for smaller amounts. The marijuana was found in a number of parcels stashed in barrels and a haversack in the house. A search of the family's house was carried out by the police narcotics branch after it received a tip-off that the family was involved in marijuana trafficking. Attorney at law Dexter Todd, who is representing the interests of the family members, told the court that he is disappointed with the way the police conducted its investigations. He said although a 4th suspect, who is also a family member, has claimed ownership of the marijuana, the police still moved ahead with charges against the others. That 4th suspect, who is a son of the couple, is expected in court soon. The 3 family members who appeared in court today were all remanded to jail until October 1. And finally this evening, we turn to the world of politics. The campaigning for the local government elections has started, and today the People's Progressive Party announced that it has submitted more than 3,000 candidates to compete for positions on the municipal and neighborhood democratic councils across Guyana. PPP General Secretary and Opposition Leader Barry Jagdeo told reporters at a press conference today that his party's list consists of party members as well as civil society members. But Mr. Jagdeo also leveled accusations against the APNU, the AFC, and other parties and groups, claiming that many of them forged the names of supporters for their nomination lists. His accusations come as the PPP is being accused of doing the same in parts of the Essequibo region. But today, Jagdeo said his party has received reports from persons in 42 of the 80 local authority areas accusing the other parties of replicating names on their backers' list.
We have observed that from our internal information now over the past several days, that in 42 of the 80 areas, either APNU, AFC, or the URP have forged signatures or they have misled people into signing the backers list. In 42 of 80 areas to be contested, just imagine that. More than half of the local government areas, not constituencies, I'm talking within areas.
The PPP General Secretary also complained about some of the parties presenting themselves at the GCOM locations up to a day in advance of the nomination day so that they could be first to hand in their list.
There were some things that we observed from nomination day activities. I think the country would see that itself. Many of you have been observing how the lists were submitted. You have seen parties camping out 2 days before in some critical constituencies just to get their list in first. And I think we'd have to advocate for a change in this law because it's an aberration. The law now states that the party that gets its list in first, that if any other list would have a name that is replicated on the first list, the first list will retain that name, and that name will be struck off from all the other lists.
With regard to the accusations that the PPP has also presented lists of backers with duplicated names, the opposition leader said it is a matter that his party will now investigate. Meanwhile, today the PPP said it remains firm in its position that the Minister of Communities moved unconstitutionally when he created new local authority areas. The PPP still intends to compete in those same areas. And that's your News Source Evening Bulletin for tonight. I'm Gordon Mosley reporting.